Good evening, this is Pineleaf Needles, and welcome to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO, and here at LOTRO Players. And tonight we have a full cast with us. Welcome, Draculetta,
Greetings, everybody.
Eltheros,
Hoi hoi.
Raxwolf,
Hello, Lotro.
Mystery,
Hola.
Lilikate,
Ciao.
Andang,
Hey, everybody.
and our newest member of the cast, Sithrith.
Hello.
Finally, we also have a special guest this week. Please welcome Bradford from Quest Gaming Network.
Maya, Govan, and all, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming
And
on.
thank you. And thanks for joining us. So, Bradford, could you please tell us something about your involvement in LOTRO, how you started playing, and how you got involved in the community?
Well, I've actually been playing Lotro since it launched back in 2007. It's kind of a funny story. I swore I would never play a game that I had to pay a subscription fee to play. And then I saw this amazing game called Lord of the Rings Online, and so I changed that rule pretty quickly. And so I've actually been playing the same character since launch. I don't have very many alts. I do have some, but I think the highest alt I have is like 30. I play on the Nimrodel server. I've played on it since the very first day I opened the box and installed the game. I actually run one of the oldest running kinships on there. We formed in June 2007 called Eruhin. And we're kind of a small kinship. I think there's maybe only 12 total people in the kin. But I think that's one of the things that's kind of kept us gaming together the entire time. As far as my community involvement, I was a lot more active back when, I was paying to play the game. I don't pay the subscription fee anymore, so I'm not as active in the community, but I still keep up with it. I still try to make sure I'm on top of all the news because I get asked about it all the time. Whether it be from people on Twitter or people I know here in Las Vegas who play the game as well. So I'm not really a forum junkie. I mainly just kind of read LOTRO Players and get my news. So yeah, that's Bradford. That's me.
All right, and can you tell us something about Quest Gaming Network?
So yeah, we are a network of podcasts and gamers who do podcasts. Basically, our flagship show is a show called Elder Scrolls Off the Record, where we focus on obviously Elder Scrolls. Big one being the Elder Scrolls Online right now, but it started out as a show about Skyrim because it launched about 2 months after Skyrim launched back in, I think it was 2011, 2012. I can't even remember the date. I've been with QGN since April of 2012. And I'm actually their news director. I handle the content that goes up on the sites, whether it be an article, review, breaking news, stuff like that. We mainly just do podcasts. We do some YouTube stuff. We do streaming as well. We do pretty much everything when it comes to games in general, though I do notice we have more of an RPG focus because those seem to be the shows that last the longest are, MMOs, because there's a lot more to talk about. So if you want to know more about Quest Gaming Network, questgamingnetwork.com, very easy. You can check out our podcast. We're on Twitter, iTunes, all that stuff.
All right, thank you. Now we'll head on into the news for our game news. Our first thing is the Spring Festival is now live.
Yay.
Is anyone here getting
Yay.
involved? Anyone here actually done anything in the Spring Festival?
Yeah, I
She had her
have.
flowers. Yeah, she can't say she hasn't because I spotted her. Yep.
I did
Although I
that
thought-
questline thingamajigger they put in, that new one, because I intended to start grinding for whatever it is the new rewards were. But then Zither just gave me a free spotted shrew pet, and I just left it at that. I named him Hans.
What new quest line? I didn't know there was one.
There's one in Breetown. You go pick up things and deliver them, and then you go back and pick them up again because you put them in the wrong place. It's
that
kind of
new?
weird.
No, that's not.
I
No,
thought
I
it was
did
new.
that years
I
ago.
haven't done it before.
I think the shrews coming from the patches of flowers is new, but the quest itself isn't.
Yeah.
Is
The
it?
quest itself I
Shrews
did at
new.
least 2
They've-
springs ago.
I've
They've
never done that one
rearranged the
before.
maze. Oh yeah, that too.
Yes.
I heard
They've
something
rearranged
the
about
maze.
that.
Yeah.
And the new true rewards. There's a new steed.
Blanket
And
steed again.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh
it's
yeah,
a-
another blanket steed.
Yeah,
New
but it's a
robe.
trestle blanket.
It's pretty, but we've had blankets before. Come on.
And we'll have blankets again.
We must have really cold horses.
We don't ride them
we're
enough.
you got to remember is that when we do our questing in the northern parts. I know it's the spring festival, but when we do our questing in those areas, it does tend to be in the fall and winter months.
Yeah, and keep
mean-
that in mind because it's important, right, Pine Leaf?
No, it's completely insignificant. We have to come up with something.
At this point, I pretty much don't do any of the festivals since they changed them to the whole daily grind system. Like, was it last year or the year before? Pretty much since then, I've just gone off them. I don't enjoy them anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I think
agree.
I'm the same way.
Well, I've really enjoyed my pet shrews.
Oh, I'd like my pet shrew.
House.
Oh, how many have you
I
had?
got a dusty one today. I've managed to get 2. So
Yeah, I've gotten
I'm hoping that someone will get one or off. But I really want the big one because I've been running with Tamer of the Shoes Table for a year, so I think I deserve one.
All right, I can't hear Lily Kate right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
she's
seems
breaking
like
up
the
a bit.
connection from Italy's having some issues.
Oh,
Sort it
yeah.
out, Italy. I'm actually glad they made a cosmetic pet that was actually sort of viable to get, rather than the whole horn pet, which is completely random, and then the chicken one, which is a complete and utter grind. I'm not sure how
Yeah.
frequent these drops are for the shrew pets, but apparently they're pretty decent.
What I've noticed is I haven't like fully like done data on this or anything, but what I've noticed is people who have the Erebrandier's horseshoe equipped seem to get shrews more often.
Of
I know
course
the
they do.
developers said they like to add stuff for festivals for the horseshoe, and it seems the people I know who have that horseshoe equipped pretty frequently are getting more shrews than,
Yes, but
for example, me, who doesn't
but
have
is
the
it-
horseshoe.
Is it possible that that there are a large number of people who use the horseshoe during festivals are also the same one who do the festival a lot and therefore might have more likely to have them for
I
that
don't
reason?
know, because I've been doing the flower picking every single day, and I've gotten 3 shrews. Oh, like I only seem to get about like 1 shrew per hour long festival or flower picking thing. But I know this other person who always has the horseshoe equipped, and she seems to get 2 or 3 shrews every time she goes flower picking. Again, I don't know if that's like just lucky and like the RNG just loves her, or what.
Well, there's one way to test it out. Have Draculetta wear the horseshoe and do the flower quest and see if he gets any shrews.
The RNG
Because he
hates
has the worst luck with that thing.
I think that's my challenge for next week. Then.
That's the challenge for next week.
I will
That's
do that and
true.
report back.
Very well. Yes. Unfortunately, Drac won't be able to do that on Tuesday morning because the servers are going to be down Tuesday morning for some reason. Maintenance, I know.
Look at that segue. That was a
Yeah.
Yeah,
quite a
That was
segue.
good.
classy.
And I thought you was going to say he was doing epic battles.
No,
Oh God, no.
no. On Tuesday morning, we are going to have. It is going to be down. That's Tuesday morning Eastern time. So therefore, don't plan anything major at that time. But I suspect most people will be working on Tuesday, unless of course you're taking a long weekend because it's a holiday weekend.
Like most of the nation, yeah.
Right.
No,
On-
most take Friday probably, but anyway.
In addition, we also have an article that was written concerning some things that are in store for Update 14 and Andang. What do you know about this?
Yes, Pine Leaf. Well, During the recent Rittermark Take the Hobbits to Isengard run, Rowan Campbell actually came into the chat and he decided to drop a lot of information about Update 14. Well, maybe not a lot of information, but way more than what we've been getting, which was nothing before for like the last month. And Rowan basically, with this first quote, says that Belfalis, rather, I did it again, is the most beautiful region they've seen yet. You can see Dol Amroth in the distance, and the region really comes alive. And
All right.
go ahead, Pineleaf.
I was just wondering, maybe Belfalis has an area called the Braxwood?
I don't think so.
It's possible. It's
That would be
possible.
so funny.
I don't think so.
That would be amazing.
And if that rabbit makes it into the game, then I mean, Braxwood needs to be the next thing in. Just
Firefox
saying.
is running around.
That would be a surprise, though, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah.
An
S-
Explorer it'll take
Go
forever
on.
to load.
so I went on to Lord of the Rings Wikia, which is not the most accurate thing, but it's definitely accurate about this. And the Bay of Belfalis is actually where most of the rivers empty into the sea. Now the bay is actually larger than probably the region we're going to have, but still it's going to be probably the most fertile region we've seen since the Shire. Definitely more than Rohan. It should be a really, really beautiful area. And also there's going to be the sea as well. So, I mean, it should be a really great zone, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Rowan did say that it was the most beautiful zone he had seen in game. He also actually mentioned that it reminded him a lot of Greece, which I thought pretty interesting
Yeah.
because I think that tends to be the inspiration for Gondor's like Mediterranean style.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of what the movies used too, in a way.
Yep.
Grease the movie?
I hope not.
Wow.
I
All
So
the
that
Gondorian
happened.
soldiers are wearing black leather jackets.
So Brax, just because we're adding guests doesn't mean that we can't also get them kicked off as well.
That sounded like a threat.
Anyway, so the article continues on, and Rowan says, during the War of the Ring, the Belfalis was raided by the Corsairs of Umbar, and they did not send any men to help defend Minas Tirith until Aragorn liberated the coast with the Grey Company, freeing Gondor's southern armies to follow him north to relieve Minas Tirith.
Ergo, epic battle.
Ergo,
Maybe.
epic battle, and also the new race of the Corsairs of Umbar, which we've already talked about before.
Well, actually, concerning that because of Belfalis, because Dol Amroth did send some soldiers.
That's true, but it was
Yeah, that's true.
not very many, I guess. Well, I mean, it was a
No.
lot,
Well,
but
yeah,
Dol
It
Amroth was like the prince's own
Yeah,
Yep.
it was
army.
Prince
yeah,
Imrahil.
yeah, yeah. He, I think he was one of the last ones to arrive. Maybe even.
Well,
I think a
and it
lot of
was
the
only
like smaller
the-
settlements didn't.
Yeah, no, it was only the Knights of Dol Amroth that went to the Battle of Pelennor Fields. Everyone else was kind of protecting the Belfalas.
Right. All right, go on.
And Ron continues on saying that summertime is when we will be getting the update. We're a couple months out, so about 2 months away, which means that we should be seeing the update in either July or August, which is not too far away.
And that means we'll probably hit Bulwer probably at least a month before, since I'm sure they'll be wanting plenty of testing.
Yeah, so we should be about a month, considering there won't be any NDA on it until we start seeing the huge areas of Gondor coming up. So that's very exciting. And this does only, though, leave 4 to 5 months for the Dead Marshes and the Peligir updates later in the year. So I'm thinking that the rest of the year is just going to be a ton of LOTRO content coming out, or they're going to have to postpone one of the updates till later.
We will Have to see. Now, what's next?
Well, Rowan continues on saying there was a little stutter coming over the rise to Dol Amroth that they will have to work through. They're really pushing the distance view. The smoke from the individual beacons that are lit and stretching way out into the distance. But they will make sure to polish the performance on people's graphics cards. So, first of all,
That just sounds good.
that sounds amazing. The beacons being lit, that's one of the key iconic things from the Lord of the Rings. That's, the movies even make a huge deal out of it. I can't wait to see Lotro's take on it. That sounds really good.
Yes. That will be in a very important moment. Beacons lighting up and saying, "We need help!"
And
Do you think
also,
LOTRO will give it its own montage like the movies did?
They wouldn't be able to top it.
No.
that's true, they wouldn't be able to top it, but it'd be interesting if we had one of those camera zooms that you have fairly often in Lotro, it seems,
Yeah.
during the epic story.
Hmm.
And
Alright.
also they mentioned that they're increasing the distance view, which is presumably to be able to see the beacons farther away, so that's
And
interesting.
obviously, they're going to need to do that for Minas Tirith anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Alright. And Rowan continues on saying there will be a new item system coming with Update 14, a new way for us to build out and customize items the way we want. And they did previously in the year, or maybe a year ago or something, mention the customizable armor. And so I'm not sure if this is like the evolution of that, or if this is something totally new. But they do have me intrigued as to what it could be. What do you guys think it is? There's the Atheros sigh.
If they, before they're going to put in a new item system, is it really too much to ask that they fix the one they've already got?
Exactly.
you.
Because, I mean,
The-
LIs,
It's such a-
pretty much everyone knows the problems with it. It's
It's
just
such a bloated
thing.
system.
Exactly. And there's a grind we're forced to do multiple times. I mean, we're going to do it, twice this year? Because of the level cap?
Yep.
It's just, that's like the one thing I don't like about the level cap going up is I have to make a new LI every single time.
I just
Particularly
don't
this
bother
year,
anymore.
it's actually twice as much because we have 2 level cap increases this year as opposed to 1. So, yeah.
I mean, I'm not even sure if I'm going to bother building one for the first level cap increase.
I didn't
just
even bother with
tedious.
Helm's Deep until I think it was 6 months later I finally decided to abandon the weapons I had and actually do that. But that was partly because the difficulty was so obnoxiously easy.
I wonder if they're even going to do it for the 5-level increase, or if they're just going to wait till the second 5-level increase to give you new allies.
I believe they already confirmed that they were planning on doing it for both.
Well, you have to have at least some new LIs because
It would be pretty
they will
difficult,
naturally
just-
drop.
Yeah, they naturally
Right.
drop every 5
Yeah,
levels.
they
It's
always
just a matter of
drop,
if
yeah.
you
I'm
choose
talking about
to.
this. I'm talking about the second age ones, the ones that you really
Oh,
grind for.
second
Oh,
Ages.
second ages.
I'm
Yeah,
not
that
even-
might not come.
I'm pretty
until-
sure he did
I-
confirm that there would be first stages somewhere in there. In one of the recent chats. I could be just making that up, but I was pretty sure he said that.
Well,
Yeah, I don't really care about what this new one thing might be. I'm just fed up with the
No.
one they've got.
I mean, like, I feel like if it's a system more like how mounted combat works, where you like level up the horses and it's like trait trees and stuff, I'd be okay with something more like that. And also, that's kind of how I would prefer allies to be, rather than just deconstructing endless legendary weapons.
Yeah.
But-
something Sapient
mean-
said implies that won't be the case.
Here's my thing though, is that they haven't messed up a cosmetic system since the LI system, and they had the inventory changes that went really well as well. Really, Epic Battles is the only system that just really failed, and that was like a huge undertaking. So, I think that based on their track record, we should have some confidence in this new system. But I agree, it's kind of ridiculous that they're moving on continually. Like they always do. They never finish anything, and then the one thing that they said they were going to finish, Drac, is that they're going to go and do Epic Battles some more and try to make that system better. So.
Yeah, I can hardly wait.
I think it's going to be customizable cosmetic pets. So you can have a
Ooh.
shrew with an eagle head, or something like that.
I have a
Some
feeling that
monstrosity.
you're not going to introduce chimeras into into LOTRO.
Never say
Shroogle?
never, Pine Leaf.
Shroogle.
It's a shroogle.
All right.
All right, it's time to
Sounds
move
cuter
on
than
now,
it
I
would be.
think. All right.
That would be kind of terrifying.
And the chat room asked about the size of the new areas in Update 14, and Rowan starts off by saying, Belfalis is the only one of the three areas in this is only one of the three areas in this update, and Paths of the Dead is pretty sizable as well. He doesn't mention the third region, but presumably, I mean, it could be something else, but I'm guessing Dol Amroth is the third area.
Right.
Because they
Then
haven't
he
mentioned anything else, so.
and he does have a note to make it clear that not all the Oathbreakers followed Aragorn. Which
Are we
means
gonna
some
have
of
this
them decided
discussion?
to stay broken.
Finally,
Well-
if you're moving ahead, you're moving ahead.
Yep. Yes.
Let me finish out this quote. So Sapiens says that these are not he says so these are not bite-sized pieces, and Rowan says what we saw in Fangorn recently is what they refer to as a mini region. It was intended to be a very small place for a single piece of content and to illustrate some of the epic story. These will be more substantial. They've got the entire city of Dol Amroth. It's rather large, actually. And Sapien says, can you say if they are going to all be connected or if there are going to be ports? And Rowan says, it's all continuous landscape. You have to cross through Paths of the Dead to get there. So,
Wait. It's on the base, so there has to be a port somewhere.
yeah, I mean, I'm guessing that there's a port over to... That's true, finally. But, the way that they say you have to cross into Paths of the Dead to get there sounds like an addition onto it. So I'm thinking that that's like a Moria gate, it sounds like, where you have to go through that area to get to the new one. I really hope that they don't do that again because there were so many people upset with that in Moria where you had to go through the Moria content, you can't just run through it. You know, you had to actually go through that start of the entire, I guess, prologue in order to get through it.
Well,
I feel like it
You
makes
don't have to
there.
now, though.
sense.
Theoretically, you could just go through Rohan.
Right,
Straight out
but
of
that's
high-level mobs, but
that's a long
yeah.
time waiting to go around.
But I feel like it makes more sense to do that with the Path of the Dead because you have to wait for a very specific part of the story before all the ghosts won't kill you immediately.
I agree with that. I can definitely see that argument. It makes more sense than Moria, for example, but I don't know. Moria makes some sense as well because the path was blocked by the Fellowship, but that's kind of a stretch. All right, and then Pineleaf, you were saying.
Yes, we're saying that is that in there because obviously Aragorn led the Oathbreakers from the Paths of the Dead, but apparently not all of them decided to honor the oath, which means that there will be some combat there.
Can we just talk about that for a second? Because, I mean, I'm sure they'll find some way to make this be lore appropriate, but I'm pretty sure that all the Oathbreakers went with Aragorn from there because, you know, they were
Yeah.
required to by the oath. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, hey,
The way
they
I
are
remembered it,
Oathbreakers.
Right,
yeah, but they don't
broke
break
the
it
original
twice.
oath.
They
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
they
I
keep
mean,
breaking it.
they're
over
not
and over.
Oathbreaker
I mean-
Oathbreakers.
we've already seen a whole and fought actually a whole bunch of Oathbreakers that didn't fulfill theirs. I mean, we've killed them.
That's
a lot.
true, but I presumed that those were different
That was
oaths
kind
of,
of-
different
Yeah,
people.
there's different oaths,
Yeah.
but it's still Oathbreakers. I assume it's the same result.
So we're talking
So
about,
there were
like,
just
oath-breaking
already
mechanics.
Oathbreakers there, and then like the real Oathbreakers moved in, and they like took over their home, and they're actually like suppressed people, and that's how they became angry towards players. And this is like this whole backstory that Termine crafts. Yeah, I can see that going there.
From what I remember of the books, I don't think it's explicitly stated that all of them went. I
It's just
don't
kind of
think.
assumed.
Yeah,
It's assumed that they all
it's
did.
yeah, it's assumed, but Tolkien never
But
comes
that
out and
means
says the place was
loophole
empty.
for turbine.
Yeah, I'm sure they're all
I'm-
sitting
Bit
back there
like
going,
Rex and
"Nah,
Rex.
I don't
Oh.
want to be free. I'll just kind of sit back here.
I'm
and
sure
stay in
that
shade forever."
Unendingness.
Turbine
just so
found like
dark.
some punctuation way to find a loophole and get out of the, the Oathbreakers, but I still think that that's kind of lore breaking, but maybe not.
Yeah, but to have this entire zone with absolutely nothing threatening all the way through. Okay,
You can
I
still
would
have
have
There's
stuff
thought
nothing
that
threatening
the
in there.
creepy
orc.
please.
Well,
I
I
would
thought
assume that the
it
White
would
Mountain
have-
orc.
I was just going to say, I thought it would be actually pretty cool, at least the first time through, to have the whole area be completely empty and silent.
yeah.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
to
that'd
have
be
that
really
feeling
weird.
of oppression around you when you're going through it.
And dark.
And just
Yeah.
Well, I was
have
thinking like
have an instance and make that be your thing where you go in with the fellowship with Aragorn or right after or something like that, and then just leave the landscape open or have like some type of enemy that's in there with them or something.
Yep.
I know
Well,
some
also-
suggestions people brought up is that they theorized that maybe after the dead have left, orcs or whatever could come
Yeah,
in
that's
and
what I'm
Yeah.
take
thinking.
over because they tend
Yeah.
they tend to do that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well,
Well, and
that's
also
what
because in the epics, like right now, I just sorry, I just did the epic, and there's those orcs that are like worshiping the paths of the dead, and the one like flees and tries to go in there, but obviously you can hear the ghosts kill him. But then once the ghosts leave, all those orcs in that area could just go in
That's
there.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. You know, once the place has been vacated, it's a perfect place for orcs to start moving into and taking over.
Mm.
I don't know, lore breaking as well, in my opinion.
They might well be there as well as the Oathbreakers, and sure they're
good
trying
point.
to vary up their combat a bit.
But then what happens when you have Beornings come in and fight the Oathbreakers that are still
my
there?
The game ceases to be in Middle Earth.
The game code just like blows up itself and it just
Right.
It just gets
ends.
sucked into a black hole
Yep.
and implodes.
Zinger is demanding past the dead housing.
half
all those
of the
places are
dead
empty.
housing.
It's prime
Get,
real
like,
estate
skull
finally.
lintels and stuff.
Yeah.
They'll probably have to change the name of it if they ever had real estate in there.
Those house prices drop dead.
Aw. That was so bad.
All right, I guess it's time to go on. How many classes do you think were discussed in before they chose to be Ornings?
Well, Pineleaf, I'm glad you asked because Rowan actually said that they had pitched 24 classes before setting on the Beorning.
I can't even think of one.
I know. Like, I mean, there's the Shield Maidens, but
I-
other than that, I mean,
I would really love to hear what those 24 classes are.
I could
They
see
could
like
be
a
either,
crazy. I wonder how many of these are like serious suggestions. Because I could
And
see
not just
like
like, well,
24
clowns.
crazy.
Well, I remember back I was at one time thinking of a knight class, but then I eventually decided that centering a class around mounted combat would have been rather not the best
Over to
idea
do
in the
before you
world.
actually get it.
Yeah, I mean, I could see like a hero class that's somehow different from the champion, or maybe some different type of range class as well. But other than that, I can't really think of that many different classes, especially that would feel
Yeah.
different. That's the key thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
somehow I don't think a monk will fit into.
I wonder if like they would say these 24 classes, and then if some of them would be awesome, and then some of them would just be terrible. Like I just so want to know what they are. I hope one day they tell us. 'Cause it could be hilarious.
I suspect that a lot of them, let's say, didn't survive the first cut.
And Sapiens does continue on to reassure players 24 possibilities before they get to the Beorning. So for those of you who think that they just pull things out of the hat, there was a lot of long discussions about a great many things before they decide on what's going into the game. So that's kind of just their PR speech saying, yeah, we know it's lore breaking, but we thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, like
There is no other
they
power.
say, like, oh, like 24 before we said Bjornings, but they could have just pulled 24 other things out of a hat before Bjornings.
Yeah, I mean,
Clown.
they
Maybe
literally just like
one
started.
down.
They saw the players like having an issue, and they're like, "Well, we need to put 24 names in the hat so we can say we considered things before the Bjorn."
Oh, ending.
That sounded a little condescending, finally.
The cat lady class in chat.
I want a cat lady class.
See,
I
there
would
you
love
go.
a cat lady class.
Is that like the woman in Bree who has all the cats in her house?
Exactly,
Or it's
finally. If
worse than
that's
it's just a Khajiit from Elder Scrolls.
See, finally, if the cat lady is what it's based off of. So because you know how they always have that character that they base it off of, then they could just put cat lady class based off the cat lady. It'd be like creating a Sam class based off of Sam.
All
Maybe,
right.
maybe Gardner
very
was one of
well.
those 24.
You know, that would actually be pretty cool. I could really
Wouldn't
see
it?
that. That would be awesome.
All right. I think it's time for us to go to the store sales. Dracula.
Nothing to see here. Move along.
Yep, that's it. Move on, please.
Don't bother.
Don't.
Because if you read the comments, I kind of got called out on the store sales this week. But the free sample of the week is a 100% mark acquisition for 90 minutes. You get one of those per account. You can use coupon code SMRK6. Once again, coupon code is SMRK6. And 30% off legendary level cap increases, legendary item stat upgrade, additional additional legacy slot, we'll try that again, and relics and relic packs, all 30% off, which I all gave a thumbs down on my post. And yeah, apparently there's a lot of people that like the LA system, and I'm not one of them. But anyway, the weekend special through the 26th, 60% off complete tier crafting, 35% off Tomes of Might, and 20% off Quest Pack North Downs.
That's weird how it's just
what-
one. You'd think they'd at least do like the revamped ones if they're going to do one of them.
North Downs is revamped.
I know, but you'd think they'd
Yeah,
do
I
all
think you
three
meant
that they
all
revamped.
three.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Weird. Maybe
Just-
they might do that the next week.
Like, I mean, it's been a long time since they've had just one zone on sale that's not like the
I mean,
somewhat
this
recent one.
Is a weekend special rather than a full
That's
sale,
true.
But then last weekend they had that whole area door special. That
Exactly,
was pretty
yeah.
good.
So we went from Eridor to the North Downs.
Downsizing.
Downsizing. Yes.
This is the
Downsizing.
episode of puns, man.
Yes. Very well. Let's go to the player news, and we'll begin with Lily Kate. Something about band registration?
Yes, the date of this has been announced for June 14th on Landraval, the Mountain, and hosting this great event. And registrations have been open since last Monday and will close this Monday on the 20th of May. So, yeah, come to our guild launch site and apply if you want to play at the top. That's guildlaunch.com. We have 17 applications. So some will be playing at the top and some others just have
All right, I can't hear you.
concerts.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so
unfortunately,
basically, Weatherstock band registration is open May 19th through the 25th, and you can go to weatherstock.guildlaunch.com to get registered. And Weatherstock is, once again, on June 14th, that's Saturday, so 1 week after our 50th. So, there you go.
Very well. Then let's go on to the LOTRO outfits for the dressing newbies. Sithrit, you're our fashion expert.
Yes, so this week's LOTRO outfits isn't actually an outfit. It's a guide It kind of ties in with the weather stock thing because I know a lot of people from other servers like to come to Landerville to experience weather stock, but they don't really have outfits because they don't have any characters on Landerville, or even if you're just rolling characters on a new server. This guide can give you some tips to how to deal with not having any outfit pieces. You can use your pre-order items, your anniversary items. Don't forget to go to the outfitters that are at various towns across Middle Earth that you can buy outfits at for silver rather than like Mithril coins or turbine points at Lalia's Market. And also the community. You can ask people in Landreville to borrow outfits from them, or maybe somebody's being very generous and might want to give you some dye if they're feeling generous. So yeah, that's the Dressing Newbies guide.
And this really was the perfect time to release this right before Weatherstock. There were even a few things that I didn't know about in here, so I recommend everybody check it out. It's a fantastic guide, and I know there were a lot of comments in the chat and various emails that we got about people who really liked this, so great job, Sithruth.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. And you also did a video on terms and acronyms?
Yes. Basically, I was working on a trait tree guide, and I was looking at trait trees on all my different characters, and I realized that like right in the trait tree descriptions, I was looking at Yellow Line for Lore Master especially, and it said like this is a CC specialization, and you use AOE, and like it literally just has the acronyms there with no definition or explanation or anything, and so I was like, well, that's not exactly helpful for people who don't know what that means. So I ended up instead making this terms and acronyms guide to clear up some common phrases and acronyms that you come across in LOTRO, stuff like tank, DPS, support for, what different classes do, and as well as other more specific things like CC or cash out, which is a new term, and I had to ask you guys to help me define that because I didn't even know what that meant.
Very well. And we also had some highlights, some video highlights. And Andy, what's your video highlight for this week?
Yes, finally, this week's video highlight is the Riders of Rohan launch trailer, which is the one that's voiced by Grima Wormtongue. And I think that this might be my favorite Rohan trailer by far. And it seems like it's also the community's favorite as well. It has over 350,000 views on YouTube alone, not to mention all the various sites that they submitted the trailer to, like Game Trailers and IGN and all those places. And this makes it the most viewed video on the official LOTRO channel, and also all of the videos on the Turbine channel as well. So this is by far Turbine's most popular video, it seems.
Very well. And our episode of LOTRO Players Adventures, we had episode 16, Soft Rocks. Where did that title come from?
I fell onto soft rocks when I went down a cliff and got away from the group for like 20 minutes.
All right. And that was when we were going all over the place in Angmar.
Yep, those orcs in Angmirim had no chance.
No chance whatsoever.
Except when Atheros falls too many and then, we all die. But other than that, they had no chance.
I try my best.
Yes. Now, we are currently on episode 48 of LOTRO Players News, which, if you do the math, that means in 2 weeks we will have episode 50. Andy, you have anything special planned for that?
Yes, finally, we have all sorts of things. We are re-inviting all our previous guests back to the show, which so far we can confirm that Roger from Contains Mod Apparel and Leonore both will be there. But I just sent out the email like a couple hours ago, so there should be a lot more than that. And it'll be live as always at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on June 7th. And we need your guys' help. You can email us various things like your favorite moments and just various comments or you can even send in audio files to lotraplayers.mimealert@gmail.com, our regular email. And we hope to have episode 50 be our biggest episode that we've had so far. So we're re-inviting everyone, especially for our 50th episode, to join us in the chat, because we have a lot of fun in our chat room. Tonight we have a good chat that's going as well. And yeah, just come and join us in the chat and help us have a lot of fun during our 50th episode celebration. There's all sorts of things we have planned, including various highlights of some of our favorite moments, like the various Braxwood mentions and a few other things. So come and listen to that, and there might be a few surprises as well.
Right. Very well. And speaking of Braxwolf, what's your pick of the week?
Oh, I think he said Braxwood.
Don't
Pineleaf
let
is just the
Pineleaf get
master.
confused. He really doesn't need to be confused anymore already, Brax.
See, they're just one and the same in his mind. He doesn't even differentiate at all.
Well, since obviously the Braxwood mentions were intended to be Braxwolf, then I would say that is a proper transition.
He used logic there. You can't beat that.
He did. I am not even going to try and beat it. The a result of the Newbie Blogger initiative that's going on this month is that we have yet another Lotro-specific blog that has launched, and it is called Tweak Lotro at tweaklotro.com. And this one's being done by Tomeric. Tomeric has a blog that's basically going to focus on plugins, tips, tricks, and the odd and strange things found in the Lord of the Rings online. And his most recent post is about the Estelden bounty hunter quests. So there's going to be some stuff in here that, for newer folks, this is going to be probably new information. They probably don't even know what this bounty stuff is. And then there's going to be probably some other things that even some of us who've been playing a little bit longer weren't aware of. So I think this is going to be pretty cool. It's nice to see some Lotro-specific blogs starting up and keeping the community rolling. This is the second one that's come out of the NBI. The other one was Hobbit's Journey by Iogro. And also, I think last week we mentioned a new Lotro podcast that's being done by Bragg. So some cool new things happening in the community. I would recommend go ahead and subscribe to Tweak Lotro RSS, or just go over there and check it out a couple times a week and see what he's got out there.
All right, thank you very much. And Ethros, what's your question this week?
The question for this week is on the subject of voice acting in MMOs, not just Lotro, but in general. Something I've been finding with Lotro lately is that they've kind of done a bit more effort into that sort of thing. I mean, we had the whole part of the epic story where there was the debate in, I think it was Edoras, where Gandalf reveals himself as the White and cures Theoden of whatever the heck he was suffering from. Depression, I guess. And the first question we have here is, generally, what do you think about having voice-acted content in MMOs? We'll start with Andang. When he's done coughing.
Oh, I thought he was voicing.
Yeah, I'm just dying over here.
Okay, when you're done with that.
I think that voice acting in MMO content is actually usually pretty good. In MMOs that try to really go after it, like SWTOR. That being said, I really don't like the voice acting in ESO. I mean, there's some good voices, but it just feels like that they don't know what situation they're in when they're in, and so it seems like they're just not voicing the right emotion a lot of the times. So I think as long as the voice actor is given the information that they need to make that voice be great, I think that it's a good idea. But at the same time, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time added on to the development process to make voice acting come about. You can see that with SWTOR, how long it took them to come out with that next part of the story and future parts of the story. And we'll see what happens with Elder Scrolls, but a similar thing could happen there as well. It's very hard to keep the aggressive MMO schedule with that much voice acting. So I think you kind of have to do what most MMOs do, which is a hybrid where you have your quest text that's pretty long, and then you have your special moments when the voice comes out, and also when you right click on the NPC as well. I think that's kind of what you have to do. I like that more in MMOs just because the amount of resources it takes to create something like SWTOR is too much for MMOs. I think that it's very, very hard to pull off properly.
Braxwolf.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that this question came up because I had kind of the same conversation approached from a different way this week with another blogger in the NBI. So Simcha, who is a brand new blogger, and she's hearing impaired. She's got a new blog at simchaandalts.wordpress.com, and she was talking about trying to find the place to turn on the subtitles to some of these voice-acted games. And we started talking about whether we use subtitles or not on the games that are strictly audio for the most part, i.e. voice acted by the characters. And I think what I came to was I really like having both the text and the voice going at the same time. I must be a very combination audio-visual learner because I feel the most engaged in the story, and I remember the story better if I'm reading it at the same time that I'm hearing it. So I think voice acting is great, and I liked it in ESO as well as SWTOR. Those are two of the games that, besides LOTRO, I feel the most engaged in the story. I've tried some other that are basically text only, and I have a lot more trouble even remembering kind of what quest line I'm jaunting down as you go along and you continue quest. Okay, why did I start this in the first place? I don't even remember. So yeah, I'm a big fan of voice acting and text. I like to see them both together.
Sithris.
Yeah, I actually really agree with Brex. Basically, if I don't have both the voice and the text, I just kind of get distracted and don't pay that much attention. Whereas, like, if I have the voice and the text going at the same time, I can focus more on the story and I remember it better than otherwise. And I also agree with Ending, like, basically, if the game doesn't go all out for the voice acting, it's really obvious and it suffers, even if it's not something, like, it's not that big of a deal, I guess. Like he was saying with the Elder Scrolls Online actors kind of not having the right tone of voice for some of the things they were saying. And just little things like that can really come out in the quality of the game. So yeah, that's my opinion, I guess.
Drac.
Yeah, kind of like Anting mentioned. To me, it's kind of a double-edged sword. If it's done well, I think it really kind of sucks you into the game more. But if it's done bad, it really detracts you from the game. So, does a game really need it? Like I said, if it's done well, yeah, it immerses you more. But then they really have to spend the time and the money to pay good quality actors. So,
Well, and that's kind of part of the problem because you can still spend a ton of money on voice acting like Elder Scrolls Online did, and it's just that they had great quality voice actors. It's just that they didn't present them with all the information they needed, I think, in order to make it be great. So even if you go all out in voice acting, it's not a guaranteed thing still.
well, then that might be the writing of the game too.
So, do you find that a game with bad voice acting is harder to get invested in than a game with bad just quest text writing?
Personally, I do, yes.
Because that was
Lily
kind of
Kate
something.
wants us to read her opinion. She says that she thinks some of the British accents in LOTRO are terrible, and that is her opinion.
It is.
Some of the voice acting, in fact, maybe it might even go so far to say most of the voice acting is not very good, especially that Bride Tor song. My gosh, why did that have to happen?
I can't really think of any good voice acting in LOTRO except for maybe Gandalf.
Gandalf does a fantastic job.
Galadriel's pretty good too.
Galadriel's good. Really, any of
No, I
the
didn't really like her that much, actually.
the Rangers
She
would
kind
be
of
good.
enunciated too much.
The Rangers would be good if they weren't all the same voice.
Yeah,
If they
or
had,
they said
you know,
more things besides like it's a
They had
sorry
a
day.
ranger voice.
Our mission
Mhm.
is dire.
But you know, the cinematics that they voice, for example, they usually do a pretty good job. So most of the cinematic voiceovers are pretty good, especially like the Theoden at the Battle of Helm's Deep. That I love that cinematic. They do a great job with voice
The
acting there.
voice acting they did for Merry and Pippin with the recent update, actually, I thought was pretty good. Wasn't like amazing, but it wasn't bad. It didn't take me out of the story or anything.
And we're not even going to discuss the end.
There are worse Ent impressions I've heard.
Remind me never to hear it from them
Yeah,
because I thought it was pretty bad.
If you've heard worse than that Ent, I don't want to hear it either.
Yeah, that was one of them.
Hadoom, badoom.
Okay. I've lost track of where we were. You finished what you needed to say,
Yeah, I
Greg?
am. Yep.
Okay. Pineleaf.
In this, well, first off, you can't go purely by voice for several reasons. First of all, you have, as noted before, if you have someone who's hearing impaired, they might not hear the voice acting, so you will need some subtitles available. And I've noticed sometimes that even when I do have the voiceover, I hear the thing, and then after it, I says, "Now, what did he just say?"
Especially in MMOs because you're not usually trained to actually like be attentive.
Right. Yeah. So therefore, so it is nice to have the quest text there, so you could check it in afterwards. But as you noted that a really bad one maybe could throw you off, but I don't think I've been thrown off by as many voices as some of the other people have been. I don't remember. Okay, yes, okay, ESO hasn't exactly been the greatest voices in the world, but I don't think I was as put off by it as Andang was.
Well, I wasn't put off by it too much. Like I really enjoyed the Prophet in that game, for example, and some
For
of the
me,
other
the lip
characters.
syncing was worse than the acting.
And that was
God,
part
the
of it
lip-syncing was
is
terrible.
that when the lip syncing and acting were both off, that's really when I noticed it because you know you already see the lip syncing being off, and so you're really thinking about you know how good the voice actually is, I guess, and so that's probably attributes to it a bit.
Definitely immersion breaking.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That was kind of something I found with playing the Secret World, where I was doing a playthrough on whatever the British one was. I don't remember. But the acting was so weird. It felt like they weren't actually British people acting. They was like some other person trying to pretend like they had a British accent, and it was really noticeable to me. I don't even know if they may well have been British. It just sounded very odd, and it took me out of it quite a bit. Who hasn't gone yet? Mist.
Hello. I was wondering if I was ever going to speak. Voice acting. I like voice acting. I agree that you do need text though, and you have to have the right style voice, but more importantly, you need dialogue that's engaging. So even if you're just running past somebody, it needs to be a decent line, not some of the stuff, I won't swear, that you hear in game at the moment. And that's multiple games, so not just LOTRO. Yeah. And you need variety. You need more than 6 sentences that 10,000 people say.
By Duran's beard!
Yeah, and that's one of them. So yeah, you need the dialogue to be engaging and to be interesting. So even if you are running past someone and you hear them, you go back to listen to it. So because it's out of the norm, so to speak, and actually wants you back there to listen. Just a thought.
Yep, that's what we're here for. And Bradford.
I think I agree with pretty much what everyone said. Depends on the game for me, though. I mean, certain games voice acting makes sense. Certain games, I think I would prefer text over voice acting. We've mentioned SWTOR and ESO. Um, you you have series that already have a history of this. I mean, ESO has a history of the Elder Scrolls series being, completely voice acted, whereas with SWTOR you have the cinematic heritage of Star Wars. So I think it makes sense to have those fully voice acted. But I think with other games, it's okay to have the hybrid thing going on, like what Anding said, where part of it's voice acted and part of it's text. Myself personally, I even with fully voice acted games, I usually find myself just kind of drowning out the voices and reading. So to me, it doesn't matter either way. Bad voice acting, I just kind of laugh at and move on because I realize a lot of times it's a game and it's never going to be perfect. Even with single player games, some of the voice acting is not as great as it probably could be. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the next question is something I found generally surfing the internet and MMO sites. It tends to be a belief that voice acting is just as a whole objectively an upgrade to quest text, which is kind of just an archaic, just kind of a fill in there because they didn't have the resources back in the day to do this voice acting on such a large scale. So I'm just wondering, how much validity do you think there is in that belief? And this, if say an MMO had unlimited resources, whether they should go all out voice acting, no need for quest text at all, or at least to a very, very minimal extent. We'll start with Bradford, I guess.
Okay. I don't think it's an upgrade personally because again I find myself reading quest text a lot more often than I listen to the voice acting. Though with the way the gaming industry as a whole is moving, with games being a lot more cinematic and larger budgets going on, I think voice acting can only get better and eventually could be an upgrade over quest text. But I do think that you're never going to fully get rid of quest tech just simply because you are going to have those people out there that don't like it or are hearing impaired and going to rely on subtitles. I mean, movies, most DVDs nowadays have a subtitle feature. I think you're always going to have that feature with a video game, regardless of the focus being, very heavily voice acted. So I don't necessarily think it's an upgrade, but I think it can be down the road.
Mm-hmm. Smist.
Me again, so quickly.
I'm going round the other way this time.
I don't think you can ever really get rid of quest text. So I do believe that that's always going to be a part of the game. But whether or not voice acting is an upgrade, I don't know because I like having the voices in the games. So, yeah, they could get better and that'd be an upgrade. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Okay.
Goodbye.
An abrupt conclusion there, but okay then, Pineve.
Well, when I hear good voice acting in it, it does feel like an upgrade. Because it's something I don't have to go through the trouble of reading and slogging through all that text because sometimes you're just not in the mood for doing a lot of reading into it. And of course, when I'm doing a video, sometimes it's probably better even the poor voice acting that's being done on there might be better than what I'm presenting to do when I'm trying to read through the quest text.
Mm-hmm. Nothing else to add there?
No, I was saying. So I was what I would consider then to be the upgrade is it gives some variety to the voice that's being heard when I'm doing a playthrough on YouTube because so it might
Mhm.
not be a direct upgrade to from the point of view of the player. It might be to someone who's watching a video of the player.
Suppose it gives you time to catch your breath.
Yeah, that too.
Drag.
Um, as to it being an upgrade, then again, I think it goes back to what I said before. I think it just depends on how well it's done. But like everybody else said, I don't think you're ever going to get away from text because basically an MMO is all about the story, and story is usually reading. When you mention story to somebody, they normally think you're reading a story, and MMOs are pretty much all about the story. So it's I don't know. It's hard to say, but Roger from Contains Modern Apparel in the voice or in the chat said Star Trek Online actually uses the actors from the television series, and he says it works really well that way in that game.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like a different take on it, which I never thought about. If you have like a licensed property in your game and you actually get the actors to do the characters.
It would give it more validity, I suppose, doing that way. Brax.
Yeah, I think it's an upgrade. I think everybody should do both, with the caveat that they need to give the player the option to shut one or both of them or one or the other off, or
Yeah.
to somehow speed through the voice acting piece if that's something that's going to hold you up as you're going through the eighth time with your eighth alt and don't want to hear the entire story again. Yeah, I always go back to player options. I think as many, I know there's a lot of check boxes under the options in LOTRO, but I think the more options you give players, the more they can customize the game to their liking, the better off you are.
Mm-hmm.
Good point.
Well, apparently I have yet to master the alphabet, so we'll go back to C and ask Sithrith.
I don't really have a whole lot to say because everybody else has pretty much hit the nail on the head. It's pretty much just, it depends on the game and what the game is going for, whether it's an upgrade or not. But ultimately, because of the way the game industry is, it will always be seen as an upgrade because it takes more effort and it can improve some games.
And ending.
Yeah, let me put it this way. In a lot of Kickstarters, there's another tier or another edition for a lot of them that are, more quest-based, text-based type games. They'll have another tier being, get a voice actor, or get a team of voice actors, or whatever it is. They have that tier on there, and so I think that a lot of players, and at least the people who make games for sure, think that voice acting is an upgrade. And at the very least, it does provide more options to the player. For example, in Planetary Annihilation, one of their um, upgrades was actually getting the original Total Annihilation voice actor to voice their game, basically. And he does a fantastic job. He's in the trailer and a few other things. Yeah, so I think that for things like that, it's probably worthwhile. If they get like the the LOTRO voice actors, though, I don't know if that's necessarily an upgrade. If it's like a true upgrade, it's nice that it's there. It's a nice addition, and some of them really stand out. Like I'm so glad that they did the Gandalf voice and the Galadriel as well. But some of them, it's just like, you could have asked the sound editor to do a better job than that, I think. But I don't know. I think that it's an upgrade in certain situations.
Okay. The final question here is relating specifically to LOTRO now instead of just the general MMO space. So it's looking at how LOTRO's got it now with the limited voice acting in certain areas. And looking at other MMOs, where exactly would you like LOTRO's voice acting to be, or whether you think it's fine as it is now, or maybe you think there's already too much? Where would you want it to be? I guess we'll ask Sithrith.
Oh, okay. Switching it up. Okay. Um, I think they should really just stick to voice acting for the epic storyline. I think they should just stop trying to add voice acting to every vendor and NPC you come across because, yeah, the by Durin's beard and oh, won't you give me a moment? Like, it all just gets so old. And if you have to click on an NPC multiple times and you just hear it over and over again, it's maddening sometimes. So I think they should probably just stick to the epic story because that's where it's best used. Yeah.
So would you like there to be more voice acting in the epic story than there is now?
Yeah, sure. I'll say yes. More voice acting in the epic story, less voice acting everywhere else.
Okay then. Pineleaf.
In the case of the general landscape area, I think I'm so used to doing LOTRO with minimal voice acting that I think adding more to it, I think, would just detract from how I'm used to playing the game. So while I didn't have any trouble with it in ESO, I think that if they went full voice acting in LOTRO, I think I'll find it a distraction rather than a help. And probably because of the huge number of quests that you get in LOTRO and the amount of quest text that's going to be in there, I think I'd be better off just reading the stuff. So I'm not really jumping up and down on the bit to have more to it. And of course, when you're going through the epic story through the 15th time, the last thing you want to do, I don't know, yes, great hearing Gandalf trying to heal Theoden, but somehow the 15th time it's saying, okay, do I really want to go through this again?
Yeah. I suppose that repetition is the thing in that with quest text it's easier to just skip or ignore it rather than the voice where you kind of, unless you have an option to turn it off, you're pretty much just stuck with it or you just take off your headphones for that 10, 15 minutes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Bradford.
I don't want to see any more voice acting in LOTRO. And I think the reason for me is because one of the reasons why I've always loved LOTRO is because of their adherence, for the most part, to the books as opposed to the movie franchise. And for me, reading these quest texts is just like I'm reading another page in Middle Earth history. And I honestly think that it would derail the way that these stories are told. I mean, there is some voice acting in it, and I thought it was kind of cool when they first introduced it, after the game had been around for a while. But if they start to try to add even more and even more, I think it takes away from that feeling of nostalgia of that. It has its own little niche in MMOs nowadays, and I honestly think that it would ruin the experience. That's just me personally. I know not as many people are going to want to read these big, long, quest things, and I do find myself sometimes skipping through them just because they do tend to drag on, especially if it's a quest I've done before. But for the most part, one of my biggest joys in this game is being able to sit back and just read these stories that are unfolding in front of me, and I feel much more immersed as a result. Because in order for me to know what's going on, I have to sit there and read it. I can't just rely on some lifeless voice to tell me. So. I don't want to see, I don't want to hear more voices in the game. And if they were to do so, it would not be LOTRO to me anymore. That's probably a little extreme, but it's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm. So you say you find yourself more immersed in, say, those cutscenes for Volume 1 where there isn't any voice work? You would find those more immersive than the ones in Volume 3 where there is quite a bit more?
Not, the cutscenes in between, I don't mind as much because they've had voice work even in the very beginning with those cutscenes. I mean, especially the Gandalf voiceovers during loading screens and stuff. So I don't know if I find those more immersive. I think it's the actual quests themselves. When I'm sitting there, my character is talking to that NPC. That makes me more immersed because again, I feel as though I'm actually sitting there talking to this person, not this person's talking back to me. I have an actual interaction with the NPC, as opposed to again a lifeless voice telling me what's going on. One of my biggest gripes with ESO is actually the voice acting. I don't like the voice acting in that game. And the biggest reason is because everyone sounds lifeless. And I honestly think that adding more voice acting to a game that already has some pretty bad voice acting to begin with will just make the game feel less alive than it does now. And again, it's kind of weird. I know I'm on the extreme when it comes to reading quest text. I don't mind poring over tomes and tomes of quest text. Um, Not everyone's going to agree with that, obviously, but I do find it more immersive when I'm having to read it.
No, it's interesting. And I forgot who's gone now. Drac, unless I've already asked him.
No, I haven't answered it. I think I would have to agree with Sithrith, and way less on the NPCs. In the epic, it's okay. Only if it's quality. If it's going to be more like that horrible Ed voice, don't bother at all. That was. I'm sorry, but that was really, really, really off-putting to me. I mean, that just sucked me right out of the story when I heard that and go.
More
Like,
or less than
yeah.
epic battles, Drac?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Wow.
Because
More or
epic
less
battles,
than allies.
well, see, that's a tough one too, because they're right up there with epic battles. But, so yeah,
That's a showdown.
yeah, yes, it is. Don't make me pick between the LI system and epic battles.
Save that for the 50th, I guess.
Hey, there
Yep.
you go. Yeah.
I have no idea who hasn't gone at this point.
I can go.
Okay, then.
I'll go after you, ending.
Oh, well. Good. Do you think LOTRO should move more towards more voice-acted content? I think that really they'd have to, if they're going to move, they need to move and get, better voice actors. The writing's fantastic. You don't need to change the writing, which might not be true with some other MMOs, but with LOTRO, they have a fantastic writer. Made Alliance does a great job. If they were willing to spend the money, or if their accountant got wrong and suddenly they have like this bounty of money that they didn't realize, sure, invest it in voice acting. I think that they could do really interesting things. As far as if they keep their budget where it is and they keep the same voice actors, I really don't want to see more voice acting, especially if any of the characters have to sing any more songs, because man, that was terrible. So yeah, that's kind of my stance on it.
Okay, Brex.
I think the only place that they could use some more voice acting is in some of those instances where it's basically you're watching the NPCs perform in front of you and you're not really doing anything other than watching the story. I think that's where they added voice acting after the beta in Helm's Deep in the Epic, because there were so many of those instances where you were just sitting there watching people talk, but you weren't really engaged.
And that's a
so
good
if-
point. When there's a lot of stuff that's going on screen, and I'm looking back in the chat like 10 paragraphs behind, trying to figure out what they said during a playthrough, I completely miss like the action that's going on screen sometimes. And so, if I hadn't played it before, and sometimes those words come up really quick and they go away even quicker. And I think that that's an issue with doing voice, because you don't want people to have to wait forever, but you also kind of want them to actually read what you're putting up there as well. So I think that doing voice acting in some of those more action packed areas of the story would be a good idea.
Yeah,
actually-
and you can't tab through that text as it's scrolling by anyway, so you might as well be listening to it at the same time.
Regarding having more voice in action-y parts, that's actually something I did like about Epic Battles, is that some of the side objectives and when you're giving commands, they do actually call out. And I actually found that quite useful for the side objectives, at least, because that was the first indication that I got before finding, looking to see the objective of what I was doing or that I was getting in a side objective. I actually found that added to the feel of being in a battle.
Yeah.
Certainly better than the billboards that you get trying to say, this and this is happening. Okay, can't be really urgent if.
Yeah, and obviously, if you're in a battle, you don't really have time to read a lot. So, kind of having that just someone shout out, it gives you the gist of it. So, at least you know generally. Obviously, it depends on how well designed each one is, but you kind of get the idea of where at least to go or what to do.
And that's what I think is funny is when they say we need to hurry, and then they throw like 10 paragraphs at you of like this whole backstory and like all this other stuff. It's just it seems out of place, and I make fun of that every single time doing my playthrough because it's so weird. Like you can't say we need to hurry and then throw 10 paragraphs at the player. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Has everyone gone now? Or have I forgot someone
probably.
again?
Yeah, me again.
Okay then. Sorry, miss. I'm tired.
Is it such a rare occurrence for me to be here that you just forget?
Yes.
Honestly, yes.
Yes.
Well, put it at a
Mysterious.
time that I'm not doing stuff. But as far as what was the question again? Sorry.
Do you think LOTRO should move towards more voice acting content, or do you think it's fine as it is now, or maybe you'd even like less of it in certain areas?
No, I don't want less of it unless it's the NPCs with their do-over lines all the time. I do like voice in the epic, so I would want to see it move towards more good voiceover, so not bad voiceover, because that will just detract from it altogether. I do like reading all the text that's up there on my first playthrough of an area, but after that I tend to skip it unless it's a quest and I forget what it is I'm supposed to be doing in the quest. So I like having that text. But yeah, I'd like more voice, as long as it was good.
Okay. Now we do have some community answers to these questions, and at this point I'm going to run away and let Pineleaf talk about it.
Very well. We'll begin with, I think we've already heard this, but Lily Kate did post one saying, some of those British accents are terrible. The odd Scot sounds good, but the more working class English accent needs a lot of improvement. The actor needs to stay in the same geographical region and class for the entire speech, and I presume that Ethros will agree with that?
Mm-hmm. It's generally pretty bad.
All right. What about the accents in Dunland?
Yeah. They're not terrific. I wouldn't say they were offensive or god-awful or make me want to slap someone, but they're not great.
Well, which ones do offend you and make you want to slap someone?
There's a certain dwarf in Moria who I found ridiculous, and that's all I'll say.
All right.
If do the Battle of the 21st Hall skirmish, and you'll know who I'm talking about.
Yep.
Because no dwarf should have a voice that high-pitched.
Oh, yeah. I remember there was one time, I believe it was in, I think it was in the latest epic. That's right. It was in the final instance in Volume 3 where there is a ranger who has a voice that sounds like a dwarf. And it just said, what?
Well,
So that-
maybe they just shouldn't voice dwarfs at all and make all dwarfs mute.
I'd rather not hear elves speak either, to be honest.
No, elves are fine. It's just the dwarfs.
Yeah,
And-
Lothlorien elves, I got sick of them being snobs.
Yeah,
We do not
they
allow
do.
outsiders into the Golden Wood. God, that annoyed me. I wanted to slap him.
All
That was
right.
Haldir, if I remember right.
Do they still have
So-
that quest text even though they opened it up? Because that would be kind of funny.
Yes.
So
Yes,
they
he
do
says that even
allow
after you've
them.
been let in.
So they do allow them technically, but he's just being snobby and saying, "No, you can't come in here, you idiot."
Yep, that's Haldir.
Well, apparently so. Okay, CableNet Dragon says, "By Duran's beard, won't you give me a moment?" And that's his experience in Moria in a nutshell.
Amen.
You are ill-equipped to venture into Khazad-dûm.
See,
as
see,
you're
I-
in Khazad-dûm.
I like the dwarves. I think they're funny, and I think funny NPC that entertains me. So I enjoy the game. I guess I'm not as big on immersion as some people are.
They're better than
The
the
dwarves don't.
Peter Jackson dwarves. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
Mm,
Yeah. What I find is really think about the
Yes,
Oh,
finally.
good, you drove it out. Okay. Oh no, that's right. You're not you're ill-equipped. Is that I think it was I can't remember which was the first zone that introduced it, but it was before Moria.
I think it was you are ill-equipped to venture into these lands. I think it was.
Yeah.
I think actually
that
that was the end of the wife.
I thought it was in Forsha was the first place where it was used.
It
I
was
don't
used
remember it
there,
being-
but then they took it away, if I remember right.
I think Moria
Oh.
was the first to really widespread use it, and then they
Yeah,
took
Yeah,
that,
it was.
and then
it
it
just-
went done.
Yeah, it's gotten old pretty quickly. Yes.
Mhm.
All right, very well. Then next we'll go into Freitalist's reply and Sithrith, could you read that?
Sure. This is a nice long one, I guess. Okay.
You're just mean, Pinely.
We get a new host, and then you're trying to just like get rid of her.
Just
Come
the
on,
initiation. Everyone starting the podcast has to read a Fredless email.
There's some people on
Okay.
the podcast besides Sithert that haven't done that yet, Thoros.
Well, you need to send in more.
Okay. So Fredalus says, I think voice acting can be a powerful way to tell stories. However, it's not suited to every kind of story or every MMO. The way we take in information and think about it can change greatly based on the medium we receive it in. I'm already messing up. For example, imagine the different levels of information, context, and emotion you might get about the exact same news story if it were, and this is a whole bullet point list, so keep that in mind, printed as a 2-column article in a newspaper. You remember what those are, right? Printed as an 8-page feature in a magazine with large glossy pictures and helpful sidebars. Typed in a 40-page academic essay full of references. Written as a blog post with hyperlinks and personal perspective and opinion added. Spoken about in a live hour-long audio podcast or radio show with multiple hosts reacting to each other, like what we're doing right now.
That's a stupid way to do it.
Whoever thought of that?
Yeah.
Presented by an anchor in a 3-minute television or online video news segment. Filmed in a 2-hour documentary by a passionate director featuring actual participants in the story. Or
Dramatized.
dramatized in a 90-minute Hollywood movie with professional actors. Different kinds of MMOs tell different kinds of stories. For example, I really love the voice acting in SWTOR because Star Wars has always felt like a hugely cinematic story to me in the first place. In cases like this, the voice acting is an absolutely giant upgrade to just reading quest text or NPC dialogue. But in a game like LOTRO, it's not as meaningful to me. The Lord of the Rings has always been a primarily literary pursuit for me, so I like having pages and pages to read, and having to go back and reread passages to get their full meaning. I don't mind having an actor read the first few lines, but it doesn't add much, except to remind me Middle-earth isn't a silent place. I don't think LOTRO really needs more voice acting than it already has. What I think it needs are more voice actors. It's
Yes.
incredibly disorienting to me when every NPC in a region has the exact same voice. Imagine how many hundreds of employees have passed their turbine in 10 years it's been working on LOTRO. If each one of them had recorded a handful of different phrases, enough of these recordings would have been good enough quality to include in the game.
All right.
Can I just say he said exactly what I said, just a lot better?
Yep.
Fredless tends to do that.
Very well. And now Jordan's reply, how about mystery?
Yes, me. I'm scrolling down as we speak.
It takes a long time to get through Fredilises, so just keep going.
Yeah, I guess it does.
All right, so Jordan replied, 1. I enjoy voice acted quests, instances, and other random atmospheric sayings by NPCs. The only time I don't like them is when they are repeated so much that it becomes funny. I like the laugh, but it is strange that everyone says the exact same thing and is honestly slightly law breaking for me. As well, all know there are many excessively repeated phrases with LOTRO NPCs. Hopefully, when we move to Volume 4 areas, because we'll be well known, we won't get all of those insults to our quality of outfitting. I like I like them because they let me sit back and pay attention to the story, more so seen in other games, not as much in LOTRO. But at the same time, if the game is rushing me along or gives... I think that should be me, not we. Gives we a means to rush along, such as XP boosts or other timed things, I will tend to skip even the most interesting things to make the best use of the valuable boost, which is a problem. Otherwise, the immersion is great if the voices are realistic and not too repetitive. 2, I think it... I think it can definitely upgrade the quality of a story, but I don't think it should be forced, and I don't think money is best invested in that. I would usually rather see a great story than an acted out decent one. 3, I think LOTRO should still push for voice acted content, but I would say mainly in the epic quests. They have far better things to invest in, at least at this point in the game, in my opinion. And there endeth Jordan's answer.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes. This week we have a donation from Bragg, who provided us with $10 or more. And he said, Dear Lotro players and crew, long-time listener here. My donation to Lotro players this week serves a dual purpose. It is meant, first of all, to offer support for the excellent work you have been doing. Many thanks for the hours of edification and enjoyment you have provided to date, and wishing you all many happy returns. It is also sent with the hope that you could mention to your audience the introduction of my new Lotro focused podcast, Light the Beacons, which is now available on iTunes, and my inaugural episode being published this week. No idea where the train is going yet, but I am hoping at least a few folks from the community will be willing to jump on and see. More information is available at lightthebeacons.com, and I can be reached at Brags Brags
Bragg, son of
oh
Balin.
Bragson of Balin at gmail.com, or on Facebook at Brag Son of Balin. Thank you for your support. Baruch Assad, Bragg. And I believe we mentioned about Light the Beacons during last week's episode.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
the pick of the
and-
week.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And I did want to say that I didn't know that he'd send a donation when I had highlighted that. So it's not like he paid me to write that up.
All right, very well. To help support Lotro players, simply go to the donation page where you can help support the podcast on Lotro and also help support the site. We have $5 and $10 mentions where you can donate to get a mention on one or all of our active podcasts for an episode, depending on the amount. For $5, you can get a mention on the podcast of your choice. For $10 or more, you will get a mention on all of our active podcasts. And this week, did you say something about a review, Andang?
We did get a 3-star review, but it was a little different than I don't know how to put it, but it basically complained about how long our show was, which a podcast you can hit a pause button and play again later. It also complained about partly because we have so many hosts is why they think that it had been getting longer, which it's a very valid point, and I see their point, and I think that it's definitely really good, but it's just I don't think fit for mention on the show.
All right.
Okay.
So thanks for bringing that up finally.
Well, then I think.
But
Our featured
you can
happened
read
to your
it
segue,
on
Pine
iTunes, so you can go there and read the review.
Our featured comment this week from Thrarin left a comment on episode 47 of Lotro Players News. New Lotro Zone, the Braxwood. Gather Firefox furs to gain reputation with the Brax clan and barter for chromium ore, chrome ingots, and opera spread sheet music.
I'm
No,
hoping they don't put an Explorer deed because it's going to take forever to load.
Jeez.
You start with full reputation with the Brax clan. The Brax clan likes everybody.
By the way, for
All
those that don't know, Opera is also a browser for the internet as well. So all those were references to last week's Firefox joke in the Braxwood.
All right, very well. Dracula, could you read Tim's letter, please?
Sure. Tim left a comment on the Update 14 release and landscape details article. In the last Lotro Players News, Etheros brought up the question, what keeps you going back to a game? In a huge way, it's the continuous addition of content and story that keeps me hooked on Lotro. You see, when playing single player games, I was always hoping there was more content, as I would blow through the content in a matter of days or a week or two. There would be weeks of desperate content search while I slowly lose interest in the game, and then I'd try finding a new one. A few months after I bought and installed Lotro, Mines of Moria was released, and all of a sudden there was a whole new zone of interest to dive into. This and the prospect of new content coming in the future keeps me coming back to the game time and again. Also, now that I have gone through the story numerous times on 12 tunes, all level 95 amazingly, I still feel the story is timeless. I continue to find new places, NPCs, and generally a new feeling as I go through each region and book. The region revamps always help to keep interest in an old content. I'd say more about the Etheroshir cursors in the way. Thank you.
Gosh,
My bad.
That's all right. I'd say more about the Belfalis, Pass of the Dead, and Dol Amroth, but this is going on too long.
All right. And Garthane of Middlemead also left a comment on the U14 article. I'll gladly take the update in July, preferably around the middle of the month, so I can convince myself that it's Turbine's birthday present to me, which falls on the 18th. To be honest, this is a lot sooner than I was under the impression it would be. I'm looking forward to dinking around on Bullroar during the weekends as soon as U14 goes into testing, which, if they're planning to release in July-August release, presumably isn't that far out. And we also have emails, and see what we have here. Braxwolf, could you please read Esteli's email?
Hail, friends. Estali is back. It's been a long time since I wrote to you guys, and I hope I was missed. Of course you were, Ali. We missed you very much. Really enjoyed the last episode. What are you laughing about? I was being sincere.
It was.
It's a very sarcastic laugh, Pat.
I didn't realize I had any other one. It all sounds the same, no matter what my emotions are.
Really enjoyed the last episode of Lotro Players News, especially the discussion on taking a break from Lotro or gaming in general. I would like to add my 2 cents on the topic. Let me start by saying that this is the only game I play at the moment, and I just don't see myself getting into any other MMO or any game in general. While I do like raiding, I was never a hardcore player. Being a casual player means that I don't feel like doing a daily quest for rep or other items. I don't feel any obligation to do so. So if One night, I am leading a raid. Next night, I am attending a concert in Bree and just chilling. So I have never been burnt out from the game. I think it's all about taking things in moderation and taking a break from some aspects of the game. There is so much you can do in LOTRO and so much variety, there is no real need for a complete break. And I make sure people appreciate the casual nature of this game and my kin, Casual Raiders. Cheap plug, I know. Actually, that perfect name. I do miss being a part of LOTRO Players Adventures show, but Saturdays has become a kin rating night, and when I finish, it's too late already. I have also completed my latest poem, and like always, I am sending it to you guys. This one took a long time because I tried the ABBA rhymes in this one. Hope you guys enjoy reading it as much as I enjoyed writing it. As always, excellent shows and keep up the good work, Ali. And he wants me to read his poem, although I don't sing like ABBA. So,
And also, it's kind of blasphemy because Pine Leaf's our reader, but
yeah, Pine Leaf, how's it feel to be second fiddle for once? Come on.
It does
Alright.
say though that then Pine Leaf is the man, so I'd just
It
like
does.
to point that out.
Well, I'm not second fiddle. I'm third clarinet. Just ask Lily Kate.
Oh, God.
Pine leaf logic.
The poem is titled Olorin. When all the hope was gone, he came, like a beacon of light in the shadow of night, his mighty ancient sword aflame. His pointy hat and long beard, smoking his pipeweed, riding his white steed. He is loved by all, not feared. His humility was exemplary, and his grace, a steward, a passenger, a wizard, a messenger. He wasn't a man nor of elvish race. He walked with mighty powers in west. His mission was high, and the end was nigh. Fought the evil in Moria, he passed the test. Wandering the Middle Earth, from Ithilien to Bree, telling his tales with a pint of ale, from arid Luin to lonely mountain of Dale. He cares for hobbits, elves, dwarves, and men free. Now in the land of Aman he walks once more, in company of Nienna, Manwë, and Varda, fated the power of Narya in Arda, a far green country beyond the white shore.
Wow, awesome poem.
One of his best.
Bravo.
Yeah, I'd rate that up as his best. Honestly, I mean that was a great one.
Yeah,
Keep them coming.
it's good.
All right. Right. And if you want to contact us, for example, leave us an email or you should leave us an email, you can go post it to lotroplayers.mymiddleearth@gmail.com, and you can also follow us on Twitter, lotroplayers @lotroplayers, andang @pvmp_andang, Brax. Braxwolf @Braxwolf. Okay. You were begging for that one, weren't
I
you?
didn't do it. I did not do that. Change that.
Show notes fun.
All right. Sithrith @Sithrith, Draculetta @Draculetta_72, Etheros @Etheros, Lily Kate @Lilykate Buggins, Mystery @MysteryXOX, Pineleaf @Pineleaf Needles, and for our guest, Bradford @LOTR Lore. You can join us live every week. You join LOTRO Players Adventures, which goes live every Saturday at 5 p.m. server time. And the LOTRO Players News goes live every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. server time, and that is United States Eastern Time. And you can join us by going to lotroplayers.com/live. And be sure to join us on the YouTube chat, and thank you for watching and listening. And that is all for tonight. And until next time, this is Pineleaf Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.